Good morning, dear colleagues. Not being known for one of the shyest persons, but to welcome you to the annual conferences of our association, standing in front of the 700 to 800 colleagues, listening to an all of a sudden calm auditorium has always impressed me a lot. So this year is different. Due to the well-known reasons, I have to welcome you to a virtual conference, and I have to admit, it does not feel right. Besides all the professional reasons which prove the value of an annual conference, the meetings in person, getting to know each other, finding friends in the like-minded community, for me, this was and is a very precious value in my professional life, and I miss it a lot. However, let us look into the future. That you are all here shows that you are still in business, and I hope that being now through the main season, you find a way to keep your zoos and aquariums running. Talking to the colleagues, there was quite a variety of how the members in the different regions could cope with, first, the lockdown, and secondly, afterwards with the reopening under certain measures. If you won't see anything positive in this mess, you may be reminded that there are businesses around which were hit a lot worse than us, the zoological gardens and aquariums. That EAZA as an association is going ahead is proven by the program of this annual conference. The program covers different topics where colleagues out of our community share their experiences, but also speakers from organizations which have attitudes and goals in common with EAZA. The topics are a kaleidoscope of the interesting and always challenging work in our zoological gardens. Undoubtedly, a great pleasure is the fact that some of the EAZA's corporate members are sponsoring different sessions. So please look out for our sponsors in the various sessions, and we are very thankful for their support. A special and warm welcome to the speakers. Thank you for donating your time and giving us an input from different sources, which we may not use in our routine of our daily professional life. Last but not least, the list of the speakers is headed by Mr. Virginijus Sinkevicius, European Commissioner for the Environment, who will be with us by video later in this plenary. Besides these plenaries, where the variety of our work will be obvious, there has work to be done to administer such a large association as EAZA is. As we reminded you, all of you in the last year, it all started about 30 years ago with animals, animal programs, well-being of populations, and this all led by enthusiastic colleagues. We are grown now to the largest association of its kind in the world. It is my strong belief that such an association can only be successful if we work together. Therefore, we developed rules put in place after sometimes long but always democratic processes. If it would be the other way around, meaning that every member does what he wants, EAZA would lose its strength, its political weight, and following this, all of us would lose, and the animals and the animal populations for sure too. In this context, I'm not only beg you, but urge you to put the data of your conservation work into the conservation database. Thomas Russek and Alan Muir are doing their utmost to raise the standing of EAZA on the EU level, which is honored, for example, by the speech of Mr. Sinkevicius, which you will hear in a moment. But to give EAZA the right standing, they need ammunition, and this ammunition are your data. These data have to be loaded from each zoo itself. We as EAZA can only help you how to do it, but we cannot do it. So please consider this work as a benefit for our whole community. So the last months were for the colleagues which are voluntarily donate their time and are working in the steering committee of EAZA were not so easy. Besides the burden at home running their zoos and aquariums through this difficult period, these colleagues had quite a few virtual meetings where unpleasant but unavoidable decisions had to be made. I would like to thank all involved colleagues already here in the opening plenary for their work and their strong attitude in the past months. You kept EAZA a strong association. I would like to tell you that we reached the goal line, but unfortunately it seems to be not over yet, but I'm very positive that we are on the right track. And again, for myself, I learned how important a strong constitution is, which we luckily have now in place, and how important proper written minutes are, which perhaps have to be used in later on disagreements. Furthermore, I'd like to thank the colleagues involved in the specialist committees, tax and advisory groups, and animal programs. Knowing that the animals and their breeding are the foundation of EAZA, your work is tremendously important, not only in these special times right now, but permanent. Speaking of tremendous work, I would like now to pay tribute to a colleague from the Czech Republic, Petr Kolář, who left us a month ago at the young age of 55. Petr has worked at Ostrava Zoo for the last 30 years and became its director 16 years ago. His work with Ostrava materially changed the zoo and contributed to the further development of zoos in the Czech Republic and the wider EAZA community. Petr was a valued member of this community and a friend to many who will be missed by all of us. Having this recent accident in mind, I would like to wish a full health recovery to the gorilla keeper in Madrid. I am with her and the colleagues of Madrid Zoo. And it's also the right time here in the plenary to thank the EAZA office team, with their director Myfanwy Griffith, that they faced the task and were eager to get their duties done in a difficult scenario, because Amsterdam was and is one of the towns in Europe where peaks of COVID-19 pandemic are popping up from time to time. It is great that you facilitated the virtual conference, and I hope that this will only a once in a lifetime experience. Dear colleagues, last year in Valencia, our colleague Jörg Junold, director of Leipzig Zoo, invited us to his great zoo. The exhibit Kivara Savannah is shown on the conference program and as background in the virtual presence from our colleagues of the EAZA office. Each participant of the Valencia conference got one of these cards, and I, please the next slide, Myfanwy, and I got even a sign from the now virtual host, Jörg Junold. These cards, which firstly indicate the warm welcome we would have had, and secondly, with which passion the Leipzig team was waiting to host this conference. Unfortunately, we are all taught in our lives that the only thing which is real steady is a change. So we had to adjust, and here we are. I know it will not be easy the next 4 days, but for the sake of our animals, let us follow the vision statement of EAZA. Progressive zoos and aquariums are saving species together with you. And there's one more thing I would like to say. Is Stefan Hering-Hagenbeck in the audience? I don't see him. No? If he is, would be great. So it's happy birthday, Stefan, and have a great day. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Thomas. I think we've muted the participants, so Stefan is there. I'm sure he is celebrating his birthday and pleased to be mentioned. So thank you for that very warm welcome, reminder of colleagues past, but also a look to the future. I now have the great honour to update everybody on our activities throughout the membership over the last 12 months. So just give me a second to open up my presentation. Which is taking me a little bit of time to find, so just hold on 1 second. There we go. Nope, not this one. Fabulous. So hopefully you should all see my opening slide there talking about an update of EAZA activities. And when it came to preparing my presentation today, there was a lot to think about actually in terms of the variety of things that have happened in the past 12 months. There's definitely been a lot of change and a lot of progress. And one of the things that I'm particularly fond of, in addition to data, which people will remember from my presentation last year, but also I do love a good quote. And this one in particular from Alice Walker, the novelist, seemed particularly apt for this year. Because this time last year, we were talking about and agreeing on our new vision and mission statement for our strategic period 2021 to 25. So we were indeed looking quite closely at the present we were constructing and thinking about the future that we were dreaming of and where we would take EAZA for the next 5-year strategic period. And of course, over the past few months, that future has maybe changed quite dramatically. But at the same time, I think it's really important for us to look at the present, even if that present is changing, and make sure that we have that strong vision statement to take us into the future that we are dreaming of, to make sure that we can maximise our conservation activities and save species together. So those of you who have been to annual conference before will be familiar with our existing strategy and our 4 main focal areas. And my presentation today will talk about our work under these different areas. But when we talk about our strategic plan, when we talk about the activities of EAZA, who is it that we're talking about? Well, those people are our members, and our members have been super active, looking to progress the activities under that current strategic action plan. By the end of 2019, we completed a large majority of the work, and the rest of it was on target to be completed this year. We had a few areas, as with all strategies, where we needed to pay a little bit more attention to make sure that that work happened. And despite the setbacks that we've encountered this year, hopefully, as you'll see throughout this presentation, people have still been incredibly active, and I'm confident that we shall finish all the activities in our strategy and take us into the new one in a positive way. If we look a little bit more closely at each of those different 4 focal areas, we can see that we're achieving things across all of them, again, making good progress in all the different areas that are important to drive our work forwards. Thomas has already shared our new vision to take us to the future in terms of progressive zoos and aquariums, saving species together with you. This really consolidates our focus on saving species, but also the with you was a very strong encouragement to add from the workshops that we held in Valencia last year to demonstrate our effective working with a variety of partners. Because the you can mean you, other EAZA members. The you means you, our visitors, our millions of people that we engage with on a daily basis, whether that be in person or in these times, sometimes more virtually. The you is also a range of other external stakeholders, other like-minded NGOs, government organisations and international bodies. So we're definitely recognising that the task ahead of saving species is a tough one, but we're part of the solution and we're part of partnership working to achieve that solution. And that view is embedded in our mission. We are a membership organisation that is setting the standard for progressive zoos and aquariums and other partners across Europe, Western Asia and beyond, with Europe and Western Asia being our core area, but indeed the reach of EAZA being much larger than that. Our mission is to strive continuously to define and demonstrate excellence through our integrated species conservation, working in a transparent and collaborative manner and really advancing population management, wild animal care and welfare, and representing our activities with international organisations, working in conservation education and scientific research. And I'm very pleased that we're having such a strong vision and mission to drive us through this next period. And when I talk about who's driving us through this period, these are our members. As Thomas said, we're one of the largest zoo and aquarium associations in the world, currently having 427 members across 48 countries. And as I said, largely focused in Europe and Western Asia, but also moving across the globe as well. When we think about our membership, it's time for us to talk about our new and existing screening processes. And as it might be understandable, the spring and summer screenings were needed to be postponed due to COVID travel restrictions. And we'd absolutely like to thank everybody for their patience and flexibility. I know a number of members that were due to have screenings early on this year. We were optimistic and postponed them to later summer, and then needed to postpone them again. And their patience and flexibility enabling us to work with them to get through this has been very much appreciated. We hope to begin screenings again in November within local restrictions. Of course, we want to make sure that we all stay safe whilst managing this process. But that doesn't mean that we did not have some new members before the lockdown and travel restrictions started. We welcomed 5 new temporary members. You can see the orange locations on this map from where they came from. And we were also delighted that 3 temporary members came through that period and were upgraded to full members. We also welcomed 4 new candidates for membership and 6 new corporate members in this period. And again, just to thank many of our corporate members for sponsoring sessions throughout the conference. Their engagement is very much appreciated. When we look at the accreditation programme for our existing EAZA members, we were still able to complete 15 screenings during this last period. And those members are awaiting their decision during this meeting within our council meeting later on this week. This slide also gives me an opportunity to encourage you to look to the bottom left-hand corner where you see our EAZA logo with conservation underneath this. And I'm super pleased that Thomas mentioned the conservation database in his opening plenary, because this is one of the things that we're working on to achieve that new vision, is about demonstrating our conservation activities and impact. And when we go through the screening process, we do ask members to demonstrate their conservation work. And of course, if your data is already in the conservation database, then you can just press a button, send us that report, and we're able to see that evidence nice and clearly. So a definite bonus for you for adding data to the conservation database. So looking where we are in our 10-year accreditation cycle, this time last year in 2019, 59% of our members were accredited. And those of you that are quick at your maths may be able to work out the number of new members that we've added on top of the existing members that we had. And we're really pleased that actually we're at 74% accredited members, and that's still actually on target, travel restrictions notwithstanding, to meet our cycle by 2022 of having all of our members screened and accredited members. So we have had a setback, but we're already ahead of the game, as it were, in terms of reaching that target. So we'll hope to progress and have our accredited members by 2022 as planned. So this is where we are. I do love my numbers. So this is how we break down our EAZA membership currently. 303 full members, 15 of those temporary members, 25 candidates for membership looking to work their way up to full members. We also have 36 associate members. And for those of you new to us who might not understand this category, our associate members include our national associations within different countries who have been very active this year, and we're very appreciative of their work. But also we have associate members that are universities or other like-minded conservation NGO organisations linked to zoos and aquariums, and also our zoo and aquarium members from outside our region. As I mentioned, we have good numbers of corporate members, and we also have 4 honorary members, our only kind of individual EAZA membership, and that's how we get to our total of 427. Thinking about numbers, but in terms of within the executive office, I also just want to take a moment to talk about the changes that we've had within staff within the executive office this year. We said a sad goodbye to Katharina Herman, one of our animal programme and conservation coordinators. She left us to go to an exciting new job in Berlin Zoo, so we're pleased we've kept her within the community, if not within the EAZA office. And she's been replaced by Kelly, and many of you might have met Kelly already in the veterinary committee meeting earlier this week, or indeed maybe in the icebreaker or some of the other meetings that have been going on already. We also said goodbye to Sonia, who decided to move back home to spend more time with her family, and she has been replaced by Maria. So we'll welcome Maria as a new population biologist to that team. Daniel here was our accreditation coordinator, and we had to say goodbye to him in March. And this was one position that we haven't recruited to yet. We've left that position open in the knowledge that we were unable to do screenings in the summer and we needed to manage our finances. So hopefully when we're back to more of a normal situation, we'll be able to re-recruit into that role to keep that accreditation program going. We also said welcome back to Lillian, who came back off maternity leave as our office manager, and a thank you to Andre, who took over during that interim period. And likewise, Sally, our animal welfare coordinator, also returned from maternity leave, and we said thank you and goodbye to Melissa for the great work she also did in the interim. We've also been extremely fortunate during this period to be able to be gaining Life EU NGO funding, and that's enabled us to employ 3 new staff positions on a temporary basis. Marie joins us here as an assistant population biologist, and Wouter and Manu are helping us with a variety of different communications. So that's a great opportunity for us to utilise EU funding to expand our EAZA team and continue the activities that are so important to us. Moving on now to our EAZA Academy. Now, we might have thought, as indeed has happened, we haven't been able to run quite as many training events as we'd wanted to in the last 12 months, but still a number of face-to-face trainings have been going on. We've had really high numbers of participants attending from a wide variety of institutions. And actually, interestingly, when I look back to the data from last year, we had 41 countries represented in my presentation last year, but 43 this time. So even though we might have had fewer training events, we've still had a wide diversity of country involvement within them. Of course, when we're thinking about the EAZA Academy, we're looking to move from our face-to-face courses much more to an online environment. And our teams have been working quite hard on that. And what we will see in terms of the future is a range of live online courses. For example, our very popular and regular Introduction to EEP Management course that will take place live later on this year while we're managing the current restrictions. But also we'll be developing self-guided training in the areas of conservation education and animal welfare so that people can pick up these online learnings as and when suits their time. Our aim is to have this blended approach to both face-to-face learning and virtual learning, with the face-to-face workings hopefully coming back into play from autumn 2021. So please keep an eye on the Academy pages on our main website to look at new training opportunities and see what's available to you there, either in a virtual format or eventually face-to-face again. So if I move to looking at a bit more detail in our different focal areas of the current strategy, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our conservation impact. And of course, I can't do that without talking about our conservation database. Why, once again, I will say this is a great resource, but it is great in terms of you institutions adding their data on an annual basis. And indeed, once the data is in there for the first year, then it's a fairly simple matter to update it year on year so that we have annual contributions updated. Of course, you can export results for your own conservation, but it's also a great resource for searching for synergies, searching for projects that you might want to work with other members with, searching for specific species of interest to gain ideas, or again, collaborative work. And of course, what we like to do is utilize the database, not only as for an individual member benefit, but also to demonstrate to our other members and the wider community the range of conservation activities that are going on. And we do this in a variety of formats throughout our social media, on our e-news, and indeed on our main website. And you can see just a small example here. And indeed, as we go through the different sessions this week, you'll see conservation database snapshots in our placeholders as well while we're waiting for sessions to start. One other thing I asked for last year was to increase the number of conservation project pages in our annual report. This is where we detail each of the projects that have been added to the conservation database for that year. And so last year we had 11 pages in the annual report listing projects in the conservation database. And for 2019, do you think we've managed to increase that? And this is why I miss having the audience. I can't see so many people's faces. But I am delighted to say that we're at 22 pages in our annual report. So we doubled the number of reporting on conservation projects in the annual report. So thank you to everybody for stepping up to that challenge that I issued you last year. And of course, this is not the only way we want to utilize our data. As Thomas said, we're able to not only demonstrate the individual conservation work of our members, but the combined conservation work of our community. And to do that, we're able to create infographics such as this one. This is what I shared last year in 2018, and you can see a range of different TAXA supported millions of euros in financial support, but also a high number of hours in staff time, both in ex situ and in situ conservation work. But I'm sure what you're all interested to see is how has this changed between 2018 and 2019? Have we done more work in 2019 than we did in 2018? Has our gentle encouragement and repetitive requests made a difference? Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say that it has. We've doubled the number of members adding data to the conservation database, and that's enabled us to demonstrate even more financial support to conservation in 2019. There's hundreds of thousands of staff hours put in, but the two areas I'm especially excited about with these increasing numbers of members is we can see that we've tripled the number of partners that we're working with, and also tripled the number of species that we're working with as well. So by adding data to the conservation database, we're able to really evidence the broad diversity of our work and the range of species. We can also see, if we look at the TAXA supported, that we've had a slight change between 18 and 19 based on more members adding their data, and again, a better representation of the excellent conservation work that's been carried out. If we just take a quick look at the map as well, when we see where our work is going out, we can see that we have some still consistent priority areas where conservation need is high in terms of Asia, Africa, but still a good focus on our European species, but conservation work going on throughout the globe as well. So thank you to everybody who's been adding their data. I would encourage you to continue doing it. And if you're not doing it, please do so already. Please do so already, yes, as well. And I recognise, and I am aware from some of the conversations we've been having with directors, that obviously this year is a very tough year and we've not been able to contribute to conservation as much as we might like. But please don't let that stop you adding your data for 2020. Because actually what we'll be able to demonstrate is how such a crisis, as we're experiencing at the moment, impacts our ability to contribute to conservation. So even if 2020 ends up being a lower year in terms of the amount of financial or hours or contribution, I would love to see those numbers of members adding data increase, because then we're able to demonstrate the impact that has had on us in terms of our ability to support and engage with conservation efforts. The other thing that we launched last year was our EAZA conservation campaign, Which Fish? And this was the first campaign that we've had that's been really led by our aquatic members, and it's run in partnership with the European Association for Aquatic Mammals and the European Union of Aquarium Curators. And the Which Fish campaign is really about us asking ourselves, which fish should we be using in terms of being more sustainable in our use of aquatic resources? When we look at the members that have signed up to the campaign, again, we have a really good number of members signed up here, over 130 members, so we're well on our way to having our target of 200 met. And if you've not signed up yet, please do so. You can go to the whichfish.eu website and find out all about the campaign, and also be inspired by some of the activities. Our members this year have been super innovative in thinking about different ways that they can engage visitors both on-site and off-site with sustainable activities, as well as looking at their own. Also, I'm delighted, as with many of our campaigns, not only are EAZA members joining, but we have a good number of non-EAZA members also seeing the value of this joint conservation work. So thank you to everybody that's been involved. Now, what we ask for people in this campaign is to make pledges under 3 particular areas. And what we request is that participants opt into a minimum of 3 pledges linked to our campaign axes. We have a campaign axis about human sustainable consumption in terms of thinking about the sustainability of the food we feed our visitors, or indeed our staff in our canteens. We also have some pledges around making sure that the feed we feed our animals is also sustainably sourced. And then the third axis is all about collection planning for sustainability. And even though we requested that people joining the campaign do at least 3, I'm delighted again to share that we have an average of 7 pledges per participating institution. So really making sure that we are constructing our presence here to think about that future where we're managing aquatic resources sustainably. So thank you again to everybody that signed up. And if you've not signed up yet, please do join this very important campaign. That then leads me on to our second focal area, talking about healthy populations and individuals with positive welfare. The large majority of this work is led by our conservation and population management team, working closely with our taxon advisory groups, our tags, our EEP and ESB coordinators and keepers. And we've had some changes to that, so thank you to everybody who is involved in managing these important processes for EAZA. But also we have individuals that are not EAZA members but want to engage with our EEPs, and managing those non-EAZA EEP participation requests is part of this work as well. We have our regional collection plan or RCP workshop scheduled, and a number of these were looking to be face-to-face later on this year, and we'll be rolling those out as trial versions as we go forwards to make sure that the momentum in that work is maintained. So again, we're reconstructing our present to maintain the future that we're dreaming of. And in terms of making sure that our processes are running correctly, we're going to start a new cycle of tag evaluations and indeed implement our terms of office for tag chairs and vice chairs as well. Our coordinators and their species committees have continued to be busy producing these excellent best practice guidelines. These tell you everything you need to know about management and care of the species, and they're freely available from our EAZA website. You can see the range of guidelines here, and indeed that elephant one and indeed the bonobo one is hot off the press, just newly released. But also I'm delighted to see that, thinking about constructing our present towards a new future, that we're seeing revisions of existing guidelines going on, making sure that we're staying up to date with the latest practice. And this is definitely an element of EAZA that's ingrained to make sure that we're continuing updating with the latest scientific knowledge. So good to see those second edition black rhino guidelines there. When we're looking at our new processes and that new future, we also have our new style regional collection plans or RCPs. A variety of species have had their collection plans approved, and you can see these in the EAZA member area. When we're looking to carry out these regional collection plans, we're looking at the range of species under that taxa and really thinking about which ones we should be holding, what are the roles and goals for those species. And this is another opportunity for me to promote the EAZA conservation database, because actually what we're looking at within those regional collection planning processes is that holistic view. And so to look at that, we need to not only think about the work that and the species that we hold in our collections, but also the work that we're doing in situ as well. And we can use the data in the conservation database to really help us inform those RCP meetings. We also have a range of external stakeholders that attend those meetings as well, making sure, as I said, that we're having this holistic approach. We had a variety of workshops that have been held in this face-to-face format as well. You can see some pictures. I don't know whether I'll have any group shots in the presentations next year, but those workshops have been held for the freshwater teleos, chordata, caprinae and owls, and those reports are being finalised and again will be in the member area for your information soon. And then once we've worked on which species we would recommend within the regional collection plan, that then brings us into developing those programs into our new style EAZA ex situ programs or EEP programs. And we're at set 26 so far. And as you might imagine from the range of RCPs that have taken place, we have a range of new style EEPs for species. This time last year, this is where we were at, looking to be moving towards new style EEPs. And despite the current situation, people have still been amazingly productive and effective. So where we stand today, as I said, 126 of these new style EEPs, and year on year we'll see fewer and fewer of the old style EEPs and ESBs. Those graphs will go down as we move all of our programs into this new style. And this new style really is our new future dreaming, because we have recognized through our process that the one size fits all does not work. We cannot put EEPs into a single box, and we need to make sure that they are fit for purpose in terms of meeting the roles and goals that that species needs. And so that's what we mean by our new style EEPs. And I'd like to thank everybody involved in that work and entering this new era of new style program management. And so once we have the new style programs in place, then our next step is to work on our long-term management plans or LTMPs. And this then takes that new style EEP and looks at it in a much more detailed process and says, okay, how are we going to achieve those roles and goals over the next 4 to 5 year period? So we have some of these LTMPs finalized for Vietnamese pheasants and indeed red panda where possible as well. We see opportunities to take our regional EAZA long-term management plan, but also integrate it as part of a GSMP or global species management plan. And again, this is part of EAZA looking to have that partnership work and integrating the work that we're doing to save species together. The gibbon and the mangami ones are there, and again available from the EAZA member area. We've also held some meetings and there are some reports in development. Our Zoom screenshot here was our Black Rhino LTMP crowd, who were very busy just last week having our first ever online LTMP process. And for more like it here, look at those happy faces. I think they all thought it went amazingly well, and really good to be able to continue to progress this important work, even in a new working style. To help us get towards making those LTMPs effective, we've also instigated check-ins with the Population Management Centre. And so these are short online support provided to make sure that LTMPs and the people involved are ready for those meetings. And we've been progressing with at least 24 of those done already. And of course, when we talk about programme management, I can't not mention ZIMS for studbooks. And of course, we've been migrating our studbooks based in the EAZA region into ZIMS for studbooks, organised in cooperation with Species 360. We have a few left to go, but once they're all in, that will be a really great way to have our studbooks in the same place as our husbandry data and our medical data, so that we can have integrated information sharing and really make the most of the data that we have to make informed decisions and make sure that we're as efficient as possible in our management of our programs. We also recognise that this is a new world in terms of ZIMS for studbooks, so developing online ZIMS for studbook training so that can help support programme managers know how to use this system correctly. I'm not content with ZIMS for studbooks. We also have spent quite a lot of time and effort this year within the new EAZA Biobank launching a ZIMS for Biobank feature. This builds off the existing sample storage module, but really supports our growing EAZA Biobank and the work that we're involved with there. The 4 logos you see on the left-hand side here are our biobank hubs, and so that's where our samples are saved. But I'd also like to thank Beauval and Antwerp, who have also provided additional financing to that of EAZA to help create that ZIMS Biobank feature. And what we're trying to look to do is encourage members to send their samples to these biobanks so that we have a great resource there to utilise for decision making. And so a lot of work that the biobank has been carrying out in the past 12 months has been to do with communications and outreach, making sure that everybody is aware of the biobank, where they can send their samples and what the processes involved are. And that's also led to some great work integrating historical collections, really increasing the range of samples that we're able to have. So not only new samples that we're gathering day by day, but historical ones as well. And that's involved some work on making sure that we can be clear about ownership and registration. So thank you to everybody that's been involved in integrating those historical collections. That's an absolute massive boost to the information and the samples that we have in the biobank. And, you know, the biobank is still a relatively new area for EAZA, but not content. They do not sit on their laurels, our biobank people, because they've also been investigating the wonderful world of cryopreservation and looking to understand and overcome challenges so that we can continue moving forward into a future where we're potentially involving cryopreservation within our biobank capabilities. And then last but not least, looking at forging global connections, because once we have all these samples, of course, we want to utilise them in a productive way, in a way that's going to really enhance our management. So connecting scientists to samples so that we can carry out that research, but also knowledge sharing with other biobank initiatives out there as well. And if you're interested in knowing more about the biobank, or you want to find out how you can add your samples or what's going on within the ZIMS for Biobank feature, we have a session going on as part of the conference. So if you've not signed up yet, there may be still some opportunity for some last-minute online registration to join that too. And in addition to ZIMS for husbandry, ZIMS for medical, ZIMS for studbooks and the biobank, we have all of that data in one central place, and this is really important for EAZA because we recognise the importance of data not only for your own institution and helping manage your own collections, but the collective power that that data can have as well to inform wider community decisions. So here's just some examples of the work that Species 360 and other researchers are able to do with our data through the Conservation Science Alliance. They're able to look at assessing life expectancy and lifespan equality to demonstrate that in terms of the lifespan of animals within our collections, we have improved from the 30s to the 80s, and we can compare them against wild populations as well. So there's some great opportunities for us to utilise the combined value of our data in ZIMS to help explore history of zoo management and demonstrate the advances that we're making. And that's maybe a more internal community use of ZIMS, but also we're able to utilise that data, that combined data, to support CITES decisions. More than 50% of the trade in CITES listed species is reported as captive bred, but is that really captive bred? Are we able to provide information from what we know and our experience of captive breeding to help CITES decisions? And one particular project that of course is close to our heart is one that's come out of our Silent Forest campaign that finished last year. Many of you all remember Simon Brusland, who is working with people now at Species 360 to develop this songbird species knowledge index, and looking to think about these highly threatened species within our songbirds that are threatened by the international trade, yet not yet listed by CITES. The trade is so fast for them that we may be losing those species before they can even get listed. And so this is a great opportunity to utilize the data that we have to help inform both our internal and external decision making so that we're able to really make good conservation advances. That then brings me on to our third focal area about representation at the EU and with stakeholders. As Thomas mentioned, we have 2 members of staff based in Brussels, and that team have been busy, as always, building relations with new MEPs. They've been utilising our EAZA manifesto here, that one with the frogs on the left-hand side. But actually, we need more. If we want to be effective in the lobby work, it's more than just having the members of staff in Brussels. We need individual members, as well as our national associations, to work at the local and the national level as well. And I'm delighted to say that this has been happening. I would like to thank all the members and national associations that have been utilising the manifesto and indeed requesting to have it translated into Spanish so that we can use it even more effectively. We've been really impressed by the capacity amongst our community that's been growing and really helping us build new relationships at a whole range of different levels with MEPs. And that's going to be really important because as we head into this next decade of biodiversity, we see the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2020-2030. I'll start again. We see the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030 being released, and our EAZA response that has been put together to this, really calling on the EU to deliver on their ambition. And the key thing here is demonstrating as well how EAZA can help support the EU deliver on that ambition through our work in species conservation, through our knowledge under the One Plan approach, through our work and indeed lobby activities, thinking about making sure that trade is sustainable and is legal. And again, we're able to utilise this biodiversity strategy in our discussions with both the European Commission officials and MEPs. And again, the members of our community have requested to have some translations into Hungarian and Romanian to really make sure that we can utilise our response to that EU biodiversity strategy effectively. So thank you to everybody involved in that. Also earlier on this year, we joined the European Commission Global Coalition United for Biodiversity. And indeed, many of our national association members have joined this important coalition as well, really looking to demonstrate the combined activities and opportunities we have as a community to be united for biodiversity. We'll also be calling on individual members to join this coalition as well, so please keep your eye out on EAZA communications to find out how you can get involved and what that means for you. We've also continued our work with the EU Zoos Directive. Many of you remember that it went through an evaluation process. This is an important piece of legislation for us, governing zoos and aquariums within the EU. And that evaluation showed that it was fit for purpose, but still there was some work to do on implementation. And EAZA was present at the first implementation stakeholder meeting earlier this year, and we were able to demonstrate the opportunities and how we manage implementation of our accreditation program and what national authorities can learn from that in terms of managing their implementation in terms of zoo licensing. But also we're part as the EAZA of the tender that is looking to deliver training on improving implementation of the Zoos Directive. And that will happen in conjunction with a number of our members, virtual format now, I feel, later on this year and into next year as well. So really good engagement on this important piece of legislation for us. We've also continued to be involved in the invasive alien species regulation work. And although it's unlikely that any new species will be listed this year, what we have done, and we've been super pleased by the work of our tagging coordinators here, in terms of demonstrating that there are potentially some invasive alien species that are on the list, like our Reeves muntjac, but there is an important ex situ conservation role for this species. So managing to balance the important need to make sure that invasive alien species aren't threatening native biodiversity, while still supporting, maybe holding some of these species to make sure that they are kept in a safe way and don't threaten native species and can contribute to conservation in their own right. Many of you will also be aware that there's been a process going on to combine the various elements of animal health law into one combined process. And that new animal health law will look to go into force from April next year. And I'd like to thank everybody that's been involved in those very good discussions to make sure that as those pieces of legislation were combined and the new animal health law was constructed, that it's going to be fit for purpose and appropriate for EAZA members. And of course, we do need to have to look forwards. I'm not sure whether Brexit was the future that I was quite dreaming of, but definitely we need to be constructing our work to manage Brexit from the 1st of January next year. And we have a task force in place to look at challenges that we may face and manage them so that we can overcome them appropriately. Additional lobby work has been going on around coronavirus in terms of exchange of information, both at the national and at the EU level, to really help support potentials for financial support for our members and opportunities to highlight the really important work of zoos and aquariums and the support that we require during this challenging period. We're also looking to represent EAZA at a range of conferences. We have EU Green Week coming up later on in October, and we've already been at the EU Ocean Week, Animal Rescue Crisis, and the One Health conferences as well. Really, again, demonstrating our partnership work and the integration of EAZA and our skills and knowledge in a variety of different forums. I talked quite a bit in this section about the need to improve capacity and the need to lobby at a variety of different levels. And one way we support our members doing this is through our study visits to Brussels. This normally takes place in around October, November every year. And so last year we had 19 members from our community from, I think, 8 different countries attended that study visit to learn about how the EU works, how they're able to integrate with the EU and improve confidence in that area. This year, it's unlikely to be a face-to-face visit, but we're definitely investigating the potentials to carry that out on a virtual basis. So if you might be interested in that, then please do contact the office and we can add you to our waiting list and keep you updated as those things progress. And I know I've kind of rattled through a lot of that EU work, and there's definitely been a lot of activity. And so if you want to know more and you want to have a deeper dive into different areas of EU work, on Wednesday, there's a workshop all about the animal health law. And later on that day as well, there'll be an update from Brussels in the more general work within the EAZA and the EU. So if you've not registered for those yet, then there's still some time. I think this is the joy of having an online environment, that we don't get some of the issues we had last year where the rooms were not big enough for the number of people that wanted to come in. So we're welcoming as many people as possible to our different sessions and workshops this year. Thinking about our lobby work on a more global scale, we've also continued to increase our capacity and activities in relation to CITES. This is something that was been instigated as part of the current strategy, and so we've done a lot of work up until now and will continue as we head towards potentially COP19 face-to-face in Costa Rica in 2022. We'll see whether that is still going to go ahead, but there's still some work to do towards that. One of the big discussions at the moment is about CITES as a convention and how well CITES is actually working. Is it managing trade in the way that we want? And especially given the current crisis and the links between animal trade, health and human health, whether we need to be thinking about and discussing ways to adapt CITES, potentially adding new appendices or altering it to really integrate elements of trade, health, animal health together. So there's definitely some discussions going on there that we will be involved in. Other areas that are important to us when it comes to CITES are to do with source codes and purpose codes. In particular, when we're thinking about source codes, I mentioned this a little bit when we talked about the work we can do out of Species 360 and our ZIMS data. When the source is captive bred, is that truly captive bred? Are the numbers of individuals that are being classed as captive bred coming through CITES for trade truly possible, given the knowledge that we have from our zoo and aquarium community? And also when we're thinking about purpose codes, how we're defining an element of zoo and what does that mean when it comes to trade. The other area that we'll be involved in discussions with is about what can be considered to be appropriate and acceptable destinations. And this is really about whether the receiver is suitably equipped to house and care for species. In particular, there's, and I'll get this right, white rhinos and African elephants, where we want to think about some specific guidelines. We're able to share our expertise in developing those guidelines about what might be appropriate and acceptable in terms of the housing and care there. And also there's some specific working groups set up on taxa-specific matters, in particular interest to us, those to do with tigers and songbirds. And that then leads me to another area of global work that we've been involved in, and that's the preparations for the IUCN World Conservation Congress. Now, this was due to be held in Marseille in June earlier this year and was postponed until January, and then the recent conditions have meant that it's been postponed again into 2021. But that postponement does not mean that the processes have not been going ahead. One of the key things that happens at the World Conservation Congress is that IUCN consider around about 120 different motions, and these motions are activities that inform the IUCN community work plan over their next strategic period. And from an EAZA perspective, we put forward 2 motions, one on law enforcement regarding commercial trade in tigers and tiger parts, and one about the action against Asian songbird trafficking. And we were delighted when both of these motions were accepted. They had strong support from a range of EAZA members who are also members of IUCN, but also some of our other stakeholder partners who are IUCN members as well. They went through the online discussion process, largely unchanged. It's great to have some good online debate about the wordings and the activities that we want to have take part as part of these motions. And they'll now go forwards to online voting later on this year to become integrated into that work plan going forward. So this is a great opportunity for EAZA and the zoo and aquarium community to demonstrate the skills and experience we have and integrate our work with that of the wider IUCN conservation community. Also, as part of this work, we, for the Congress, we put in to have a speaker pitch so that we could present on how visiting a zoo and aquarium helps conservation. So looking at the links between our visitors and the conservation work that we do. And that was accepted. And so although we won't be doing that speaker pitch in person, it will still be a virtual speaker pitch to the IUCN community as part of that program. So I'm really delighted with the opportunities and the abilities we've had to really step up and represent EAZA members and the zoo and aquarium community within the IUCN World Conservation Congress. And I keep mentioning partnerships, and the last 12 months have been a busy one for us in terms of our partnership working. We developed an MOU with EAZA about work within the International Association, I've lost it, it's gone. Air Traffic Association, International Air Traffic Association, I'll get there, about our work in transporting of animals. We also agreed an MOU with ARP about Barbary macaque work. I mentioned a little bit before about how our biobank is working with a variety of partners, and so we agreed an MOU with Cardiff University about collaborative activities in relation to their CryoArcs project. But also we have a range of MOUs that are ongoing and we review them on a cyclical basis. So we were able to update and renew the MOU that we have with the EAZA Reproductive Management Centre, and also renew the MOU we have with the Indonesian Zoo Association, PKBSI, and the IUCN specialist groups on our work with Anoa Banteng and Barbarossa. So again, really what I want this slide to show is that together we do more. You know, I mentioned at the very beginning that we're about saving species, but saving species is a tough thing. And we have a lot of skills and opportunities, but we're able to maximize those by working in partnership and taking the great experiences we have from working within our diverse community of the many members that we have, and use those skills and knowledge to really expand the partnership working outside of our general community as well. And that then leads me quite nicely onto our last area about communicating our work, both internally and externally. Hopefully, as I've been through the first 3 focal areas, you've been as inspired as I have by the massive amount of work that's been going on. And what we want to be able to do is share that work with everybody else. And a core part of our work is making sure, as Thomas said in his opening presentation, that our documents, our guidelines, our standards are continually reviewed and updated and fit for purpose for a progressive zoo and aquarium association. And so at our AGM earlier on this year, we updated the membership manual with some key updates in there, and you can find that available on our main website. A very useful tool for anybody joining EAZA as a new member, but also as an existing member to think about any questions they have about the membership or accreditation process. And that AGM earlier this year was super busy. We didn't manage to get through everything, And so later on this week, we have an extraordinary AGM on Friday. And as part of that AGM, we'll be reviewing our standards for accommodation and care of animals in zoos and aquaria, one of our core standards documents. And we'll be looking to integrate into that document some of our previous guidelines and position statements on elephant protected contact and rare recessive alleles. So moving this information from our guidelines, which are strong recommendations, into our standards, which are must-dos. We really want a diverse range of our members to attend the AGM. We'd like to hear your views. This is a core document for us. So if you've not signed up yet, please do. And if you cannot attend and you're a vote holder and a full member, please do check your emails and find that AGM proxy and send it along. It's very important for us that we have quorum at the extraordinary AGM on Friday so that we're able to make good decisions and vote on behalf of the membership. Whilst talking about documents, unsurprisingly, we spent a lot of time at the beginning of the year creating a range of different COVID communication documents, from external position statements and media statements to internal documents about animal management and care, transmission of disease, and also as we move forwards about guidance on reopening or how to engage with educators. We also had regular updates through our National Associations Committee that was very active in terms of thinking about how things were changing in different areas. And so we're able to demonstrate at the peak of the corona outbreak, 96% of EAZA member zoos and aquariums were closed. And for some of them, that closure period was fairly short in retrospect, and they were able to open from the 20th of April, but for others it went on much, much longer. And I really think being able to share experiences of zoos that went into a closure period and came out of closure periods and what the different situations were in different countries was very beneficial to not only make members feel that they weren't alone in facing this crisis, but also that they could share experiences and learn from each other so that we're able to put practices in place to be able to reopen in a safe and effective manner as soon as possible. I mentioned already in this presentation the conservation database within our annual report, but I should take this opportunity as well to mention the vast amount of work of our committees that's also included in the annual report, and indeed the massive amount of work our tags have been going on in that tag report. That is a massive document, and if you're ever feeling a little bit down, or if the current situation is making you feel sad, then pop online, pick any page in that tag report and feel uplifted and heartened by the great amount of work that's been going on, the continuous progress that that's being made, and the present future that our tags and committees are constructing towards a positive future for conservation of species in our care. We continue to publish our Zooquarium magazine, and earlier this year we had a special issue all about the Chelonian crisis. This is an excellent document, some really great articles in there, and even if you're not a tortoise and turtle fan, it's a really great read, and I'd encourage you to go back and have a look at that online on the website. I'd also like to congratulate the nutrition working group. They collated the range of presentations and work from their conference and put it together in this excellent nutrition group news that was released in July as well. So these are available online from the main EAZA website if you didn't catch them in hard copy being sent out to your institution. JAZA, our Journal of Zoo and Aquarium Research, continues to go from strength to strength. It continues to be an open access journal so that we're able to share our research with the broadest community possible. And this year we've really seen a great motivation from our editor and associate editors, great work from our copy editor and typesetter. And that, combined with an increase in the number of submissions, has meant that we're able to process them more efficiently, and we've doubled the number of articles published from 5 per issue to 10 per issue. So a really great opportunity to demonstrate the range of research work that's going on within zoos and aquariums, and also, of course, inform ourselves about the latest advances and make sure that we stay current. So, and I would encourage everybody to have a look at JAZA. There's a whole range of different research areas, not just animal care, welfare, husbandry, but also education, social science, some veterinary links in there as well. So there's, it's definitely worth having a look. And as I said, available online, and we welcome submissions as we're increasing them per issue. And of course, if you want to keep up to date, you'll no doubt be feeling that there's a lot going on in EAZA. Indeed, I am. So you can keep up to date on the main website, looking at the latest news button here. That will give you our latest press statements or news or releases of best practice guidelines. We also, of course, are active on social media through Facebook and LinkedIn. And one of the monthly updates I always enjoy reading are our Discover EAZA members. Every month we have an interview with a different person from an EAZA member, looking about the present that they are constructing and the future that they are dreaming of. And so if you would like to be involved, you want to be a Discover EAZA member and be featured, then please do contact us at the EAZA office. You can use the info@EAZA email that's here as well. And this bit is also for me to remind people about the EAZA e-news. This is our internal mailing that gives you a monthly update of all the different things that are going on EAZA direct to your inbox, and you can sign up for that again through the info@eaza.net. So a variety of ways to keep in touch. Also, you'll remember my first slide, we talked about some live funding enabling us to increase our communications capacity. So that's enabled us to then get onto Instagram. So we are now within this new, not new, but this newly in this platform, and you can follow us at EAZA_official and see a range of beautiful Instagram photos, videos and stories in relation to the work that we're doing. We're looking to utilize the hashtags Amazing Nature, Proud Zoo People and Save Species Together with You. And so if you are looking to post, please do tag us so that we can share on our profile, or if you have stories that you'd like us to share as well, you can send them through to that info@eaza.net, and we will be keen to share your work as well. And as I mentioned at the start, I do love my data. So we launched our Instagram presence yesterday. This is where we were looking at with one post, 18 followers and 101 people following. And you know I'm going to want to see those numbers increase by the end of this week. So please do get engaged, get involved with our EAZA Instagram. We would love to hear from you, see your stories, see that you are proud zoo people, saving species together with you and looking at amazing nature. So I'll be checking back towards the end of the week to see how those numbers have increased. We continue to have and update our EAZA presentations. The EAZA What's That One is a great presentation that we update annually, and you'll see we also now have a French version as well, which outlines kind of how we work as an organisation and is really useful internally to use with staff or indeed your board to demonstrate who EAZA is and how we work. We also still have our explainer videos. Again, this just gives a little bite-sized video of different areas of our EAZA work. What are our programs? How do we do with conservation education? These are available throughout the main website, but also on the EAZA YouTube channel. You can go and find them there. And I know a number of members who've been utilising these to run them, for example, the What is EAZA programme one within their zoo on a continuous loop. So those are opportunities to explain to your visitors as well about who EAZA is, why you're a member, and why it's important. Now, this time in my presentation, I usually start talking about the successful conferences that we've had earlier this year. And of course, sadly, we had to postpone our first ever Animal Welfare Forum due to be held at Alpenhall, also our Directors' Day and AGM in Bergen, and indeed our Conservation Forum at Zagreb Zoo. And I would like to thank all of those hosts, all of the organising committees, because the work they did in the preparation and the run-up was amazing, great collaboration and super exciting programs. But I also want to thank them for the consideration and the work that they've done with the office in terms of when we needed to postpone those events. And what I am pleased about is that we will be delighted to come back and visit you for the Welfare Forum Directors' Day and the Conservation Forum again in the future when we can see each other face to face again. But that didn't stop us. Just because we couldn't have a face-to-face conference, the Animal Welfare Forum has developed a range of welfare webinars. There's 6 so far, but I know this series is going to continue, that were took place live, but again, you can find them on our YouTube channel and rewatch if you missed them. And also in terms of our conservation work, we also had a very successful webinar in conjunction with Save the Rhino about finding a partner in conservation. And again, if you didn't manage to join us live for that one, you can find it on the YouTube channel. And I would recommend going back and watching them. All of these webinars have some excellent information and great guidance in them. And then this brings us to our annual conference now. So this was us last year. This was the annual conference Icebreaker in Valencia, where we had 881 people, 357 institutions across 61 countries. And this year has been a challenging year. We're having our first ever virtual conference. So I was delighted when we had our icebreaker last night, all these happy smiling people, some experienced, not old, experienced faces, and some new ones as well that were able to join us. And it was wonderful to get to meet so many of you. And really now the question is, how many people have we had joining us, or will we have joining us this week in our virtual conference? This did take some data crunching because, in a good way, many of you attended multiple sessions. So it wasn't just a matter of downloading the list and the list of institutions and then counting that up. I had to do a bit of work to make sure that names weren't repeated. But what do you think? I'd like you to think of a number. How many people do you feel will have registered for all of our events this week? Given, I'll give you a little think. We had 881 at the in-person conference. We've got a little over 200 in this session now. Well, hopefully you can tell by the smile on my face. I mean, I love numbers, but these are numbers that I really, really love. We've got over 1,000 people registered throughout this week from 573 institutions representing 80 countries. So absolutely, have a look around the Zoom room, have a look at the faces and the people that you're here with, because I am delighted that we have been able to reconstruct our present situation and look for a future where we're able to engage even more than we have before. Yes, I would agree with Thomas. I miss the face-to-face contact, and I would love for that to be the case. But also, I think we need to take the opportunity of our virtual environment to continue having these high numbers, these high engagements. Because as we're looking to the future, you know, our world has potentially been turned upside down, but that doesn't mean that we have to stay upside down. It doesn't mean that we cannot re-envision a new future. And when I look back to that quote that I started this presentation at, in terms of looking closely at the present we're constructing, hopefully you've been inspired and impressed with the work that I've been able to share with you today. I am so proud of everything everybody's done in the last 12 months. And I absolutely think we are reconstructing our present, but we are still looking at the future of saving species together with you. And looking at those numbers, I cannot think of a better range of people, an awesome community to continue doing that work with. So thank you to everybody for all your work to date. And I can't wait, as I said, to continue saving species with all of you well into the future. Thank you. Super. Okay. So that was my update. And then I think I have the privilege of being able to hand over, or to work the IT genius, to have a presentation from Commissioner, and then Thomas said his name so well, and I'm not going to be as proficient, but from Commissioner Sinkevicius from the European Commission for the Environment. And he has some words to say to us about how EAZA Zoos and Aquariums can help support the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030. So I will just go and set that up.
You forgot to share your sound as well. Are you able to find it? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
Yeah, I can find it, but now I can't find the presentation. 1 second. I love that it works so well in practice. At least this shows we're all human, right? Where did it go? Okay. So you're going to have to see some... 1 second. Yeah, definitely my future involves better IT skills from me. Oh, and of course now you're gonna...
Can you not find the file, or can you not?
No, I can find the
share
file,
options?
but now the file is doing like the little wheel of death.
Do you want me to put it on? I have it.
Just 1 second. No, I'm like, I will not be beaten by IT. I can do this. At least I'm setting the bar like really nice for everybody else to just improve on in all the sessions for the rest of the week, right? Right. Okay, so hopefully now you can see the commissioner.
Not full screen though yet.
No, but I just, not because once I turn my mouse off, my mute off, I'll turn my mute. I will mute myself and then make it full screen.
I'll give you a thumbs up if I hear sound.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for asking me to open the conference. I'm very happy to lend my support. Around the globe, there is a growing recognition that biodiversity matters, not just for its value, but for us as human beings. More and more people understand the connection of nature to our social and economic life. This change is happening thanks to you, zoos and aquariums, members of EAZA. I only hope this recognition comes in time because, as you know, we are in a state of planetary emergency. Global wildlife populations have fallen by 68% in the last 40 years. We have altered 3/4 of the Earth's surface, leaving less and less room for nature. 1 million species are at the risk of extinction because of human activities. Biodiversity loss and climate change are closely related. They make each worse. But when we tackle climate change and biodiversity loss, we get a win on both fronts. Europe wants to do that, and that's the thinking behind our Green Deal. One element is the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030, which sets a high level of ambition and shows a way towards it. It means practical action to put biodiversity on a path to recovery by 2030 and to turn 30% of our lands and sea into protected areas. We want to restore damaged ecosystems with binding targets. We want better status for EU protected habitats and species, higher pollinator populations, and less pollution. We want to green our cities, make farming more nature-friendly, and improve the health of our forests. By tackling these problems together, we will put the EU on a more sustainable path. That's the path we want to showcase next year at CBD COP15. What happens in Kunming next year will set the global path for the next 30 years. To be successful, we need the engagement of key stakeholders, and that's why we need you. By supporting research and training for conservation, you play a vital role in safeguarding endangered species. Thanks to your work, the European bison and the Californian condor are once again part of global ecosystems. Your role as educators for decades is just as important. With trade-related conservation campaigns, you can help address the illegal wildlife trade. Your activities with schools help build a new generation of nature lovers. By opening our eyes, you reconnect us with nature. Your campaigns are a powerful tool. On World Wildlife Day this year, we called on parks, botanic gardens, research centers, museums, and zoos and aquariums to raise awareness about the nature crisis. My warmest thanks to EAZA, one of the first official supporters of our United for Biodiversity coalition. My thanks also go to the National Associations of Zoos and Aquariums for your support. I hope your members will all join our coalition, because the more we are, the stronger we become. When we all speak together, we build global pressure for a transformative deal in Kunming. Nature needs our strength like never before. Thank you.
Excellent. So some great work there, and a really good call for action from the Commissioner. So we're delighted to be able to help within that EU Biodiversity 2030 strategy, but also that he and indeed many others within the EU see the relevance of zoos and aquariums to support this process. Thomas, I'm going to hand it over to you if you have any final words to say to round up the session. Oh, but we still have your mic on mute.
Yes, thank you very much, Myfanwy. I do not have the right words what to say, but it was so impressive when you rounded up this year, especially under these circumstances. And I'm very happy that we had almost 300 colleagues in the auditorium. So that is great, and I hope this is a good start for the next couple of days. And we cannot, not because we have parallel sessions, I cannot be with everybody. So I wish all of you, I wish good meetings, good discussions, and hopefully a consensus outcome during these days. And stay strong for EAZA. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Thomas. So that then concludes our first opening session. A few little technical glitches, but we're all part of this learning process together. And as Thomas said, we look forward to seeing many of you throughout the rest of this week at our other sessions. So thank you very much for your attendance today. It's great to see so many of you here, and indeed throughout our conference. So time to go and grab a coffee, a tea, maybe a little snack, and we'll see you in other sessions throughout the week. Thank you.
Bye.